Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into a case that is, well, it's incredibly disturbing, but also quite astounding. The story of Colleen Stan.
Known by many as the girl in the box.
Exactly, and this goes far beyond just an abduction narrative. It really digs into psychological manipulation, extreme captivity.
And, amazingly, human survival and resilience against unbelievable odds.
Right. So our mission today is to lay out the facts, piece together what happened, and try to understand the how and why behind this ordeal that lasted for years.
It's a unique case, definitely. It challenges a lot of what we think we know about how victims might react, the power of psychological control. As we explore Colleen's story, I think you'll find some really surprising, maybe even unsettling insights into the human mind under extreme duress.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. Colleen Stan, born December 31st, 1956, in Oregon. Fast forward to May 19th, 1977. She's 20 years old. She decides to hitchhike down to Northern California, about 600 miles. She wanted to surprise a friend for her birthday. Now, Colleen wasn't reckless about this. She was actually pretty careful. In fact, that day she'd already turned down 2 rides because something didn't feel right. But then, waiting there in Red Bluff, California, this car pulls over. It looked like a safe bet, a young couple, Cameron and Janice Hooker, and they even had their baby, just 8 months old, with them. Colleen later said she remembered thinking she was thanking her lucky stars. It just seemed okay.
And this is where it gets chilling, isn't it? How quickly that feeling of safety can evaporate. She mentioned the ride was quiet initially, which didn't raise alarms. But then they stopped for gas, and she had a sudden, really strong feeling, like a voice screaming, "Jump out the window and run!"
Wow. A clear warning sign.
Yeah, but she pushed it down, questioned it, got back in the car. It's so easy to rationalize those instincts away, unfortunately.
And that decision. It sealed her fate for the next 7 years. They drove just a little further. Then Cameron turned off onto this totally deserted lane, stopped the car. Janice got out with the baby, and then boom, it happened fast. Cameron lunged into the back seat, knife to her throat, demanding she comply. Colleen was terrified. Absolutely thought she was going to die right there. She just whispered, "Yes!" And then came the control measures, immediate, methodical. Blindfolded her, gagged her, handcuffed her. And then he brought out this wooden box she'd barely noticed before. Hinges, a hole for her neck. He put it over her head. That was the beginning, her new reality. They get to Hooker's house in Red Bluff. He leads her straight down to the basement, and what happened next, he called it an initiation. It was horrific. Took her clothes off, made her stand on an icebox, attached her wrists to hooks in the ceiling, then just pulled the icebox away, left her hanging there, suspended. Oh my God, she must have been screaming. She was absolutely terrified. But Cameron's reaction, he got a whip, told her to shut up, and started hitting her.
Instant, total subjugation. The physical pain was obviously immense, but the psychological shock. The immediate punishment for any reaction. It was designed to break her instantly.
That first night was hours of torture. Then he just left her there, suspended, blindfolded, headbox on, wrists connected to it, in agony. She was convinced she wouldn't survive the night. And the whole time, nobody knew where she was. Her family, friends, they thought she was off surprising her friend. The friend didn't even know she was coming, so nobody was looking for her.
Not for 4 days. Until her roommates finally realized something was seriously wrong and called her parents.
Her parents were frantic, of course, drove hundreds of miles searching. Police had nothing, no leads, but her family knew. They said she was not the one to just take off. They knew something terrible had happened. Meanwhile, Colleen's conditions were unimaginable. 23 hours a day, naked, blindfolded, in a box barely bigger than a coffin, let out for maybe an hour, usually for more torture, and barely any food. And Cameron's warning echoed, "Go ahead and scream, I'll cut your vocal cords. I've done it before."
And she believed him. That level of isolation, the constant threat, it makes escape seem impossible. Not just physically, but mentally. The fear of retaliation is paralyzing.
And on the outside, Cameron and Janice just carried on. Normal life, he'd go to work, come home, go to the basement, torture Colleen, take photos.
Photos that later showed her chained to this device, the wreck, with electrical wires. Horrific evidence.
This went on for months. Her poor mother even sent dental records to the police, feeling the worst that they'd find a body. Then, after about 8 months, January 1978, something shifted slightly. Cameron let Colleen take off her blindfold, showed her this tiny storage cupboard under the stairs. He called it the workshop. Inside, he had these BDSM magazines. He gave her one. It had an article about the slave trade, slave owners, their rules. And Colleen said it just hit her. "Oh my God, this is real." She started shaking. Then he produced a contract, forced her to sign it. It laid out her total submission to him as her master, using the name Michael Powers. But it also mentioned this terrifying organization, the company. A network of slave owners.
This company idea was Well, it was psychologically brilliant in the most twisted way. It created this constant unseen threat, an entire organization watching her family. It bound her more tightly than any physical chains could. It's a really potent example of coercive control, almost like a cult dynamic, creating this alternate reality she couldn't escape from. She genuinely believed he'd kill her, or worse, hand her over to others if she didn't sign.
So she signed. And from then on, she wasn't even Colleen anymore, she was Kay. Had to call him Master. Couldn't speak unless spoken to. Conditions improved, slightly a cruel twist. She could wear clothes sometimes, didn't always need the blindfold. Still in the box, though. And it was around this time, 8 months in, that he raped her for the first time. About a year after the abduction, May 1978, they moved house to a mobile home. And Cameron built another box, designed specifically to fit under their waterbed frame.
Under their bed.
Yes. And for most of the next 2 years, that's where she spent her time, locked beneath them, hearing everything. Her freedom expanded a tiny bit again, let out more for chores, gardening. She even helped care for their second child when it arrived. But Cameron had this other project. He called it the dungeon. He was digging this huge hole under a shed outside. Said it was for her and for, quote, many other women that he planned on kidnapping.
His fantasy world made real.
And he forced Colleen to help him build it.
Which brings up that question again, doesn't it? If she's outside, doing chores, even helping build this thing, why didn't she run? But the brainwashing, the absolute belief in the company, the fear for her family, it created these invisible bars. Opportunities were there, phones, neighbors, but psychologically she was trapped.
Then, nearly 4 years in, 1980, a surprise. Cameron let her call home, but with a heavy warning. The company is listening. Say anything and your family gets hurt. She called her family's house. Her younger sister, Bonnie, picked up. Colleen just said, "This is your sister, Colleen." Imagine hearing that after 4 years.
Total shock. They thought she was dead, or maybe run off with a cold.
Bonnie had so many questions, but Colleen, terrified, could barely speak. Just said she was all right, missed them, loved them, then had to hang up. And incredibly, the family didn't call the police.
They were afraid of pushing her away again, maybe making things worse if she was in a cult. They just wanted her back, didn't want to risk losing contact.
A few months later, Cameron did something even bolder. He took Colleen to visit her family, unannounced, introduced himself as Michael Powers, her new boyfriend. He actually left her there for 24 hours, said he had a convention. Her family was overjoyed, but also shocked. She was so skinny, so thin, and so pale, like the light had gone out of her.
But still, they didn't push too hard with questions. That fear of losing her again was too strong.
Cameron came back the next day, picked her up. There were emotional goodbyes. Someone even took a picture, Colleen smiling, arms around Cameron, a picture the defense would later use.
Chilling.
And the moment they got back to the mobile home, straight back into the box under the bed. No explanation.
He likely felt he'd given her too much freedom, needed to reassert control immediately.
And she stayed there 23 hours a day again, using a bedpan with her feet, for 3 more years, until 1983. But in 1983, something started to shift again. Janice Hooker got interested in Christianity. Colleen was already religious, so they started reading the Bible together when Cameron wasn't home. A bond started forming.
Between the victim and one of her captors, it's complex.
Cameron even started letting them go to church together on weekends. Colleen said this exposure to the Bible, the church community, it started to open up her heart. Cracks were forming in the control. She was also slowly reintroduced to people. The kids, neighbors who thought she'd moved away. Cameron, meanwhile, was apparently developing a strong attachment. Talked about wanting her as a second wife. He even let her get a job as a motel maid.
And this is the irony, isn't it? These small bits of normalcy, of human connection, reading the Bible, church, a job. That's what started to dismantle the psychological prison. More than the constant abuse, it shows how vital connection is.
Then came the moment. August 9th, 1984. 7 years after she was taken. Janice confessed to Colleen. The company, she said, it isn't real. Cameron lied.
Though Janice claimed she had believed it was real too. Whether that's true, who knows?
But for Colleen, that was it. The next morning, she acted, got to a bus station, called Cameron from a payphone, told him, "I'm leaving and you can't stop me." Apparently, he got upset, started crying. She just hung up and left. She went home, tried to live normally, but didn't tell anyone what had happened, didn't go to the police.
Not for months. And this part is really telling about the psychological aftermath.
Yeah, she actually stayed in touch with Cameron, called him often. She apparently felt he could, reform, become better.
It sounds like Stockholm Syndrome, absolutely. That lingering connection, however warped, after years of that intense, controlled relationship, It really highlights the depth of the manipulation.
So Colleen is home, silent. 3 months pass. Then Janice Hooker goes to her church pastor. November 8th, 1984. She's agitated, confesses everything, says things she never dreamed could ever happen. The pastor is just overwhelmed, calls the police with Janice's permission. 4 days later, police find Colleen 570 miles away. They noticed she seemed okay, functioning normally, not emotionally drained.
Which actually made it harder for them initially. Janice's story sounded so bizarre, so extreme, and Colleen seemed fine. But once they spoke to her properly, the truth came out.
Cameron Hooker was arrested. Janice got immunity for testifying against him. The investigation revealed nothing in Cameron's past suggested this. Good childhood, friends, family, no police record. Made it even more baffling.
But the evidence found at the houses told the real story. Restraints, the head boxes, ceiling hooks, pornographic magazines detailing violent bondage, and those photos, including undeveloped film.
When the case hit the news, it caused a frenzy. People couldn't believe it was real. It sounded like a horror movie plot. Hooker's trial started that December. Over 18 charges, kidnapping, rape, sex crimes. He pleaded not guilty, claimed Colleen was a willing participant, consensual.
And his defense used Colleen's own actions against her.
Exactly. That photo of her hugging him, returning with him after the family visit, her silence, never escaping, having a job, going to church, but saying nothing, and staying in contact afterwards.
All framed as proof of consent.
The prosecution's argument was clear. Brainwashing, Stockholm Syndrome. She wasn't consenting. She was terrified and psychologically controlled by the belief in the company. His second trial was in September 1985. Janice Hooker testified first, and the prosecution brought the physical evidence into the courtroom. All the props, as they called them, the head boxes, cuffs, restraints, that signed contract showing the point Colleen said she just gave up and fully bought into the company idea.
They even built replicas of the box under the bed jurors could lie in it in the dungeon to make the horror tangible.
Then Colleen testified for hours. A detailed, thorough account of the entire 7 years.
It reportedly had a huge impact on the jury. Made the defense's consent argument very difficult.
But the defense had one more shock. Love letters. From Colleen to Cameron.
Love letters. After everything.
Yes. She confirmed she wrote them. One read, "I seem to be falling deeper and deeper into love with you with each passing day."
That must have been devastating for the prosecution.
It was. Colleen explained it was survival. Being nice to him meant he might be nicer to her, but it definitely muddied the waters. Then came the battle of the psychologists. Prosecution explaining how the trauma, kidnapping, threats, isolation causes victims to lose control. Defense psychologist arguing against invisible bar, saying essentially she could have left if she truly wanted to.
A classic clash in cases like this.
Cameron testified too. Admitted the initial kidnapping, but claimed she fell in love after a few months and the rest was consensual. The jury was out for almost a week after the 5-week trial.
A long deliberation. Shows how complex they found it.
Verdict: guilty, kidnapping, and rape specifically on the stretcher. Judge gave him consecutive sentences, 104 years total. After the trial, Colleen just wanted a normal life. Jumped right back in, studied accounting, got married, had a daughter, Danielle, though she later divorced. Since then, she's done incredible work. Campaigned against abuse, supported other victims, volunteered at helplines, turned horror into advocacy.
And Hooker. He was denied parole in 2015. His next hearing was set for 2022. It seems very unlikely he'll ever be released.
Colleen Stan's story, it's just staggering. It shows the terrifying depths of manipulation, but also, somehow, this incredible capacity for human resilience.
It really does. It's a horrific case, but it forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about coercive control, victim responses, and the lasting scars of trauma. It challenges us not to judge based on surface actions.
Absolutely, which leaves us with a final thought, really. Colleen's journey from that box to living a productive life. What does it truly tell us about the human spirit's ability to heal, to reclaim itself, even after years under such intense control?
And maybe, just as importantly, how can we get better at seeing the signs of this kind of coercion when it's happening? Even when, to the outside world, things might look confusing or contradictory.
Powerful questions. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into a truly complex and harrowing story. We hope exploring cases like this helps shed light on the more challenging aspects of human experience. Keep seeking knowledge,